as we continue to face natural disasters. We all hope and pray that they won't happen, but they always do. Obviously, there are funding issues associated with this. I think it's a whole other issue about how we address funding for natural disasters. Do we continue to do these supplemental bills, or is it something that we should be planning for because we know it's going to happen? But along the lines of continuing improvement and learning from these issues, I know, Ms. Zimmerman, you aren't the flood insurance maps expert, but is there some analysis that y'all are working with that department to determine the accuracy of these maps as predictors of damages, specifically with respect to hurricanes? They're kind of unusual, very powerful weather events. Is there some process underway to determine the accuracy of the flood maps and, for that matter, any of our other predictive mechanisms?
Yes, I can guarantee you that we're looking at the maps, looking at their accuracy as we're updating all of the maps going forward and using them. They're one of the tools that we do look at as to when we're looking and doing our hazard and risk analysis of all communities across the United States and really working with the state and local partners to assess those risks. So it's one of the many pieces that we have when we do look into those.
Yeah, and I think I asked this question because I'm also concerned about the science and accuracy behind the map. I think Mr. Lobiondo and Mr. Davis and several other folks have expressed some concern about the mapping process, and I do think that's important in our preparation for disasters, even above and beyond just determining the flood insurance rates. And I would join with the other members encouraging you to take back to your office that the maps are an area of interest to this committee and to Congress as a whole. Let me ask General Bostic with the Corps real quickly. There's a constant battle for dollars between maintenance and new projects. And one of the concerns that I hear from some of the folks back in Texas is that there isn't enough money for maintenance, and there's an attitude within the community, and I'm not sure how deeply it extends into the Corps, but an attitude of, well, we'll wait till the next hurricane and it'll fall down, and then they'll have to find money to fix it. How are we determining in the Corps what is necessary to do in maintenance to keep vital facilities open, and where are our challenges there, and how successful do you think we're being at that?
Well, this is a significant area of concern for me and all of the Corps leaders and employees. We are managing about $250 billion worth of projects that the Congress has authorized and asked us to manage, and we have very little dollars in which to do that. The reality is we're doing mostly operations and maintenance versus new construction, very little new construction work, in fact. So our focus is how do we use the precious dollars that we have to continue to operate. So one of the things that we're doing in our Civil Works transformation is to look at our infrastructure strategy and determine within that strategy, that portfolio of $250 billion worth of infrastructure, what should we retain, what should we repurpose, and what should we divest of. There's just too much infrastructure that we can no longer properly maintain. So part of the strategy has got to be to come back to the local, the state, and the federal leaders and say this is no longer serving the purpose for which Congress authorized.
Well, of course, we could pull all the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund back into harbor maintenance. That might help. And Mr. Mendez, let me ask you a question. I also thank you for coming down to the district I represent, Corpus Christi. I hope you enjoyed your visit. One of our ongoing problems throughout the country is the condition of our bridges. And can you tell me quickly what happens when we have a weather event, a hurricane, lots of water to substandard bridges, and can you just spend the next couple of seconds telling us how bad it is or is not?
Let me just give you numbers that I do have. Throughout the nation, we have close to 600,000 bridges. Of that, about I would say maybe 140,000 of them could use some form of either replacement or some kind of refurbishment, if you will. So that gives you an understanding as to how the bridges are. And obviously, depending on a specific condition on a specific bridge, a lot of water may not be a good thing if you have a lot of scour or your columns are being eroded.
I see my time has expired. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Farenthold. Mr. Carson is recognized for 5 minutes.